Welcome. Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. My name is Emile. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a program manager with Forge. Forge is a national trans-led anti-violence organization. We do training and technical assistance for service providers and work with trans and non-binary communities across the country. We are so honored to host this panel discussion today. And I'm going to move it quickly on over to our moderator, Liam Esposito, and our three panelists, Alora, Asteria, and Alex, who are going to talk with us about the experiences of being deaf, trans, and seeking support services from providers and from our community. So I hope everyone can join me in welcoming them. I also need to give a quick technical note. We'll have everybody on screen. This is a webinar, so you all during the panel discussion can use the chat to comment, react, ask questions. I'll keep track of questions, and if we have time at the end, I can read out questions from the chat, or if you would prefer to come on video and sign or speak a question, you're able to do that too, but we'll save those all for the end. In the meantime, feel free to react in the chat. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to our panelists. I'd like to invite Liam, Asteria, Laura, and Alex all onto the screen.
Okay, great. Hello. Is everyone set up properly? Okay, great. Thank you, Emil. Hello, everyone. Hello, audience members. Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining us today for our conversation. As Emil already mentioned, today we'll be focusing on deaf trans folks and our experiences with navigating and accessing healthcare services, um, and support advocacy resources, and just really supporting each other in the community. And so we're going to share a little bit about ourselves first. So my name is Liam Esposito. I identify as a white, deaf, autistic, trans man, and I will give a visual description. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I have on a tie, and it is the artist Nancy, and it kind of connects here. It shows like our systems and how we connect. I have a couch behind me, a wall, some paintings on the walls as well. And I work at Activating Change. Uh, and I'm a project director, um, and working with our advocacy program. And I'm so excited to share more about our lives as deaf trans folks, and with my fellow colleagues and panelists. I'll allow them to introduce themselves and share their name, a little bit about who they are, visual description, and just briefly a little bit more about themselves. And then we'll share more about our topic, about accessing services as deaf trans folks. And I know we have a lot of questions that we'll start with. So first we'll start with Asteria. Please feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is Asteria. My pronouns are she, hers, amongst other things. And right now I'm just like increasing my capacity with knowing trans knowledge and working with BIPOC and Indigenous folks who are also deaf. And I forgot what was the last question that you asked me. Sorry, can you repeat that again?
This is Liam signing. Yes, just basically we're introducing ourselves, and then we'll dive into the topic right after we finish our
All
introduction.
right, totally fine. My visual background, I'm wearing a black, like a beige and black striped dress, and I have a black cardigan. Behind me is this wall, and then wait, I forgot what's behind me actually. Oh wait, it's a head, it's a headrest for my bed. And I have this pill next to me and I have my water behind me, which is most important to stay hydrated, right? But yeah, let's pass it off.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is Liam. All right, so now we'll pass it over to Alora.
Hi, my name is Allura. Last name is Rose, and this is my sign name. I'm a Black dev trans woman, and I'm a performer specifically. I'm wearing a green shirt, and I have gold jewelry. You see this on my necklace, and I'm propped up against a white background. And that's that.
Okay, this is Liam. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. And last but not least, we have Alex.
Okay, no problem. I'm a deaf white trans man. I'm bald and I have glasses and a beard and a purple shirt on. And there's a purple background. And my desk is behind me. And I have a couple things on my wall. I'm excited about this topic today um, because it's good to see all of our experiences together.
Hey, this is Liam. Thank you all for joining us today and for this program. And so next, we like to share one slide with you all. So I'll share my screen, and it's a map. Now, when you look at this map, I'll give you a brief image description of it. And I want to give folks a moment to just kind of digest what they see on the screen. And then we're going to stop sharing my screen and you'll see me on the screen and we'll have a discussion about the slide. Okay. Are you ready for me to share my screen now? I'm going to pull it up. Okay. This is Liam signing. Okay. So we have this map here and we're looking at the map of the United States. Now, across the country, what you're looking at is a lot of trans advocate website from erininthe morning.com. And you can see that here, the source at the bottom of the picture. But basically across the country, when you're looking at this map, you're looking at geographical representation that reflects really a lot of trans legislation happening across the country currently in relation to accessing gender affirming care and also accessing, that means HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and it can be a host of other gender affirming care too. But this just shows laws and other legislation that has been passed across the country um, as of right now in the United States. And it is seriously a limitation for us accessing basic life needs in our society. And so here you're able to identify some of the population here with some of the heaviest legislation. So you can see here in the middle and south area of the map, states, for example, like Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, as you can see here in the deep south. And then if we move west, you see other states here as well that are red. That have some of the worst laws. And then on the coast here, we can see in the east and some a little bit in the Midwest, like looking at Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and then looking over on the West Coast at Washington, Oregon, California, and some of the bluer states. So you can see here that there is a higher risk on some of those states too. So you see that moderate risk there. And then some of the blue states represent lower risk or even safe states. So you can kind of see that across the spectrum of where we really are currently in this moment in time. And also, I do want to inform you all too of what is happening across the country, and it's happening very quickly as well. This was not the map even 1 to 2 years ago. It is quickly changing. So the reason that I even show this to you all is to give you a representation of the rapid changes that are happening across the country in our society. And again, it is happening rapidly. I mean, it's wow. And so now if you look at the map here, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, so this is Liam signing. So I'd like to ask the panelists, folks, exactly what comes up for you all, what emotions are coming up for you all as you look at the map. Just asking everyone what feeling is coming up for you when you look at the map and when you see these changes across our country.
Angry, Alex is saying.
Alex, do you mind giving your name first
This
before
is
you.
Alex signing. Sorry, I'm angry. And this is Asteria. Um, Angry and disappointed and a
There's
resentment because I feel like this is something that is obviously like a witch hunt. And I feel like I think he could, if they could just leave people alone, that would be better.
this is Alora signing. I'm angry. I'm also confused, shocked, and disgusted. The reason being kind of like what Asteria was just saying is that like it almost feels like a witch hunt, right? And it's not that easy to handle seeing this. And like for us navigating this, it's not that easy. Like this doesn't benefit anyone.
This is Liam. Yes, a lot of anger. Hmm. Yes, and disappointment, resentment. So what's coming up here is really a lot of fear, a lot of fear. Uh, ooh, a lot of fear. Just, mm. I mean, you all are right. You're just looking at it. It's like mind your own fucking business, right? Mind your own fucking business. I mean, what the fuck are we doing? The fuck are you doing in my business, my life? Let us live. Let us live our lives. I mean, in our full truth, loving ourselves, that's the feeling. And so I'm kind of curious now, what are some of the services that you all are usually seeking to receive? So, for example, it could be perhaps doctor's appointments, perhaps counseling or therapy. What type of healthcare services do you all usually seek? Give me some examples of what are some of the priority healthcare services that are significant in your life as deaf trans folks. So, for me, for example, what's significant for me is receiving HRT. I
It's
mean, I have to be
Alex
honest
is
with.
saying that.
Yes, exactly. HRT, that is my primary and service and priority. Without HRT, it would cause a domino effect to other parts of my life. And so, that's just one of the biggest things that I'm constantly thinking about and making sure that I have access to. Like if I don't have access to a medical provider where I'm able to get my P once a month, I mean, that would be catastrophic for me. So, what are some of the services that you all are seeking and searching for, perhaps already using or previously used?
This is Asteria signing. I'm just saying, I think the services that I still have currently, I am currently homeless. So I have, but without diving into the reasons why, I want to say first, um, when I'm looking for services, I see if there's any experience with domestic violence and things of that nature. And then I can share my own story from that and to see if there's people that have bias that don't understand what it means to be trans. It's all run by cis people, though, all of these services. So they definitely don't understand the trans experience. And so when I stay at a shelter, I feel like I'm the only one. I have like one foot in the door and one foot out. And then I think, I mean, can I even explain what it means to be trans if people don't aren't willing to be open-minded and to be able to recognize their own personal bias? It's worthless. So I think that when people look at me, they think, Asteria is just a fully transitioned, which means that I don't have any problems anymore, which is not true. I still have experienced frustrations and I need help. I need medical help. And people, the minute that I let someone know about my transness, I feel like that takes away from the rest of my life, you know, and I can't be open and share about being trans or about trans violence. And I do live in a red state, but there's many different layers of trans violence. Like right now, I live in Washington State. It is a blue state, but there's still people that are experiencing trans violence here, and people are really nosy and they have issues with themselves. And so I feel a lot of pushback. And even though I'm out and proud, I'm definitely out and proud as Asteria, people still pick on me. And there's a lot of positivity here, but a lot of negativity as well.
Thank you for sharing. Alora?
Hi, this is
Oh, I'm
Alora Evening.
And just to add, Asteria said, I'm also seen as a target.
And then as I'm searching for services, especially with what you're talking about, I've been in transitional housing and I'm in a program right now in DC. Um, but yeah, the services are lousy. Reason because it's mostly hearing people, and the first deaf person to be in this program, to be enrolled in it. So I'm experiencing a lot of barriers and obstacles. And so I feel like I'm having a lot of things taken advantage from me. I just feel extracted. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like we have to get things moving along. We have to make sure things are trucking along. And to what you were saying, like it's incredibly right. It's really important for interpreters to be there, especially when I go to my doctor's appointments, because I think it's important that we have, the access for that, because there can be so many layers of oppression that I can be experiencing as soon as I walk in through that door. It's really important for me as a deaf trans person. Um, because if I don't have any communication access, then who knows what would happen to me, right? Something awful could happen to me, maybe something abusive or hate crime, or I could be assaulted, or I could be like targeted, whatever it may be, because if no one's willing to speak up or support me in my communication or my access, um, so be it. So in regards to services and work, like I really have to pull up my sleeves and really look for something that is accessible. And so I always, especially with access for me as a deaf person, like I need that. I would really appreciate interpretation access so I can continue with my journey as a trans person, right?
And this is Sarah. Yeah, I want to add to what Alora is saying. I used to live in DC, and I went through that process of my medical transition. And when I had my surgery, during my transition, one of the things I had no control over who I had as an interpreter. I had zero control over that. So someone showed up when I was laying in bed, and I felt like something was a little off with this person. And this woman that showed up, she was just a regular interpreter, and she kept mistranslating what I was saying and misinterpreting and making mistakes during my interpreting. So then when it was a big deal because I was having surgery, of course, and it looked like they just put in any random white interpreter, and it's important for me to have a Black interpreter because I am trans and I have to work so hard while I'm laying in bed trying to recover from my surgery. And I'm having to do all this extra work to try to work with that interpreter, and I shouldn't have to. And because, yes, it's, I'm in the community, but that person was not part of my community and either of my communities that I'm part of. And I feel like I would be wasting my time trying to explain the surgery and everything else involved. I don't have time for any of that to give her that background. And so I felt that too.
Yes.
And it wasn't just, give me 1 second, interpreter clarification. And we're gonna move on. Asteria was saying it was a waste of my time doing all that description, and I'm not paying for that service either.
Okay. Sorry, I had to pause for a moment to make sure, for some folks who are watching in the audience, during this discussion, just to let you know, we have interpreters who are interpreting for us as deaf people as we're signing. Sometimes there's a lag time where the interpreters are still voicing and they're trying to catch up in between people signing. And so a lot of times we as deaf individuals get so excited and keep signing, but the interpreters are still voicing into English to catch up with what we're saying. So thank you so much for letting us know, interpreter. Okay, so to my comments. Yes, the labor. Yes, the labor. So we have to, it's our lives. It's our, I mean, it's our happiness, our health. You're absolutely right what you're saying about those additional layers and nuances that kind of come up and the extra labor we have to do for ourselves there. And Alex, you want to add something?
A few things, actually. And some of you may know, but I'm a part of the diversity, equity, and education at Gallaudet. So that's our DEI program. And we notice all over the US, many DEI programs have been dismantling. And that impacts trans individuals. And I think folks are just against DEI work and the trans community overall. And if they haven't shut down, they're going to shut down. And so that will also impact how folks will teach about the trans experience, the deaf trans experience, possibly as well. So how is that going to impact campuses worldwide if we're not talking about that? It's going to impact trans youth, and we're going to see harm caused, and we're going to see suicide rates. And, just as both of them said, interpreting access as well, that will be impacted. Folks like us, people won't have access to us who are in the community out there providing resources. I'm also concerned about other people and not just myself. I mean, for me, individually, where does that fit? I'm an introvert. I live in DC. Fortunately, I'm in a blue area. I'm safe, but that could change. I am fortunate to access trans care, hormone replacement therapy, surgery. I have access to all of that. I mean, I've been transitioning. I started 24 years ago. I have other trans friends in the community, but I fear for them as well. Will they have access to information and resources and services? Will they be taken away? And just as Alora had mentioned, being homeless, or trans people and seeking services, and CASA, it was a trans organization in DC, and they provided support for trans individuals in DC, and now they're no longer there. And so that was a big loss within DC as well, because it was a trans woman-led organization.
I wanted to add something to that real quick. This is Asteria speaking, because when I was living in DC, when I got kicked out or evicted, I was specifically looking for trans women experience. Like there was not any trans women, so I felt my options were even limited. So I had to move back to my own state away from DC because I know that in regards to that, like, in order to feel safe and to feel accessible, or, in order to feel, I don't want it to be too complex and like that process of like having to transition because it was just weird because what I had learned from that in regards to getting services is sadly, you really have to wait. You have to get that stamp of approval. You know, even if you're homeless or houseless, in order for me to get services, I had to wait a certain point in order to receive official papers. I had to receive like kind of like the stamp of accreditation that was basically like, you are officially homeless. Therefore, you can now get services. So it was really rough during that interim period. So it was really exhausting. Like going through that with the identities I hold, especially because the system structurally has issues, right? And I remember back in DC, the process for being houseless was complex. Like, there was a lot of paperwork and it was a clear, they were trying to clearly say, like, you need paperwork in a certain way of order in order to get services, right? And so if you don't have that certain recess, like if you don't have like resource, if you don't have that certain like paperwork, if you don't have that like official, stamp of approval, it's hard for you to get services. And people just don't really think about that, but it's a lot of additional barriers on top of houseless people. No, it's really complex. And it's really, there's a lot that goes behind it, and it really impacts everyone. But more specifically, when you think about intersectionality, it really impacts us as deaf people who are also trans and Black to have that lack of access for medication. For 2 years, I didn't have access to medication, and it was really frustrating for me. So,
This is Alex. Something just came to mind in terms of services, specifically mental health services for deaf individuals. Yeah, I mean, we already don't have enough deaf therapists and counselors who are competent about transgender individuals, who know our experiences, who know American Sign Language, who can have that communication and that connection without an interpreter. I mean, that's going to impact health services too once they start bringing about these laws against trans individuals. And I'm really concerned. All these bans happening nationwide are going to impact people's well-being and mental health, and they will want to reach out and get services even more. So, I mean, how do we meet that need?
Okay, let's pause for a moment. I want to make sure the interpreters are all caught up on the comments. Okay, so I want to name something from both of your comments about the services and the interpreting. So let's think about cultural responsiveness when it comes to interpreting matches with healthcare services. You want to be culturally responsive and having interpreters who are that. So having a white interpreter in that setting for you was not culturally responsive. Maybe you needed a Black, trans, or non-binary interpreter for yourself. I know when I had top surgery, I had a non-binary trans interpreter from that process, and it was nice for me. It really gives us to have for us to have that option of who to comfortably choose who will be with us for our own comfort. So then think about COVID. So during the pandemic, uh, pre-pandemic, and then post-COVID, um, it didn't matter what your identity was, whether you're white or Black or cis, trans, none of that. It was just after that, it was just about medical, getting the help that you need and recovering and, um, you know, making sure that we got the healthcare services that we need because it was crisis during the pandemic times. And so again, we want to make sure that we lessen, we had less access to some of those services, even with availability at certain places and resources. The wait time was longer, and maybe the doctor's offices weren't accepting new patients, and the list goes on. So right now we have to think about that. And then secondly, think about the political climate too, when it comes to all of those bills being passed. And then we have elections coming up in November. We don't know what to expect after the elections. And so, with that being said, and we kind of think outside of that and how that influences the shape of and how that shapes our experiences and our access to services with all those factors. And so now, considering all of that, let's see, what are some other challenges that you all face in the community? For example, I touched on COVID and the political climate, but what are some other challenges or factors that contribute to some of the barriers that are coming up for all of you?
This is Laura. Well, some of the barriers that I face as a Black deaf trans woman are obviously access. And many people don't realize how much we have to fight to get those services that all other people, normal hearing people, it's so easy for them to get. There's so much that we have to go through to finally be able to get access. And that's for the programs here, like they have communication. I have communication barriers and miscommunications, and it's hard for me to find answers. And I meet a lot of people who have opinions about trans this, trans that, but that don't actually know why people have their opinions. It's a big part of my life that they're not actually involved in. And during this specifically who I am as a person and a performer, and my talent and my stories. I feel like I have a lot of stories that
Mm-hmm.
inspire people, and I think, people see themselves, in me as a mirror. I'm a mirror that people see themselves in. And I know that that's my story specifically. They feel threatened by some things that I actually represent.
Thank you for sharing that, Asteria.
This is Asteria. I think the thing that is the most frustrating um, is the idea that, like, if it's remote, how do you do that if you're houseless? Because there's a lot of things going on, like layers of oppression that is happening, especially when you're houseless, right? Like, how are you supposed to be navigating this system? It's hard to tell people to be open-minded because I don't know how they're going to interpret me or like put a perspective on me, right? So I think the difficult thing is that people out there think that houseless people, they have this like there's a weird disconnect, right? They're like, oh, I'm better than this person because I have X, Y, and Z. I also have X, Y, and Z. I just don't have permanent housing. But I think the thing that is the most frustrating, or at least difficult for me, is be like doing something as a trans Black person. It doesn't matter if you're cis or trans or whatever the identity is in regards to being houseless. It's tough to, go to work or find access. Like, was it easy for me to find like employment? Not necessarily, especially in the last 2 years. The job that I did, was it like congruent? Was it like a match for me? It wasn't. So, but I was just, you know, it kind of felt like it was extracting from me. It was like free labor. They took advantage of my like emotional and mental labor. And and like they didn't really support me, and I feel like that trauma I have is what, you know from being like causing being houseless. And I feel like because of that it really impacted me and just caused a lot of trauma, especially with like having employment and being houseless. And some people would just come up to me like, hey, why are you homeless? Like, and they're trying to explain to me what I need to know instead of just supporting me. I need to be able to navigate and not have people look at me a certain way or tell me like what to do. And people are like, oh, I support Black trans women. But when push comes to shove and we need help, especially when I needed help, um, when it was time to really show me and to really be open with your heart and your mind, and because, I was really trying to be open, but there was a lot of violence that was happening. Like, I really needed these things that, I was asking for help and people were offering it, but it wasn't matching up with what I was actually asking. Because people were like, oh, why did you choose to be houseless? And I'm like, no. Like, and people are like, you should accept my help and you should just accept it because you're houseless. And I'm like, I still have agency. Like, just because I'm houseless doesn't mean I need to take anything, right? I want stuff that is like on my page, like what I want, especially as someone that is navigating that houselessness with my identities that I carry, right? And so when my experience, a lot of people have told me out in community, they're like, oh, I support, and I just feel like I didn't want to be picky and choosy. I'm being seen as being picky and choosy, and I should just accept whatever is available. But, that's just my experience. And this is just a prime example, right?
I'm sorry, I missed what you spelled. What was that?
Oh, yeah, specifically the abuse
Ad
Mm,
was.
and ADWAS. Yep. I didn't feel like I was satisfied with ADWAS services in regards to the abuse I endured from them. Especially with deaf people, as a Black deaf trans woman, I already know what I need. I am the expert of knowing of what I need. And so when people are telling me, oh, you need X, Y, and Z, you need this, and I'm like, I don't need people to tell me what I need. I know what I need. What I need is I need a job. I need to be able to work from home. I need that stability. And so many organizations were like, no, 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 we can't do that. You're not able to do remote work. Because when COVID hit, you know, it was like a change overnight. And people are like, oh my God, you can stay home now. You can totally work from home. And I'm thinking to myself, like, so we could have done this before. And this is really frustrating. And it's frustrating for me because, in community, I have people that want to support me and say that. And then some people do support me and some people don't. But it's not the only thing that is really helping me. And we need to really improve the quality of life, especially for Black and trans women out in community. Because community is not the only thing that is available for us, right? And the community keeps us ready to engage. And it just needs to be more culturally responsive, and people need to be more aware and just more responsive and congruent with what we're asking.
The moment the interpreters are
And
catching up. All right.
and this is Laura. I want to add.
Okay, I was just trying to pause to make sure the interpreters are caught up. Doo, 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 doo. All right, interpreters were caught up. Okay. All right.
For the hearing people, so they can have access.
Okay, I just wanted to add, and this is Laura. Really, my story was, I feel like I had a lot of impact. Once I left Gallaudet, I felt like, did I leave because I wanted to? No, I did not have a choice because I felt like I was so oppressed there as a Black, deaf, trans woman. And I was trying to run from Gallaudet for my safety because I couldn't see Gallaudet as an advocate for me. But they didn't want to invite me because I'm deaf and trans and Black and a woman. And they didn't want to provide any services for me. And I felt like they were like, oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, let's get going with this. And if I was just deaf, they'd be able to provide services. And I know that there are many trans, Black, BIPOC people there right now that are able to get services. But they said that they didn't want to provide access. They didn't want to provide extra services for us because we should still be satisfied with what we have. Our needs were being met. And so I wanted to remind that there's a lot of people that are failed once they're trying to provide services, and then they have to leave the place that they're in. And I feel like that people that have multiple needs are struggling. And then we have to keep teaching people over and over again. And that really traumatizes us. And I feel like there's so much oppression and bullying there that it is exhausting to try to fight for our services when we're ignored. And our services are never being met. Our needs are never being met.
And I just wanted, this is Asteria speaking. I just wanted, okay. Sorry.
Okay, we're waiting on the interpreters to catch up. All right, go ahead and continue, Asteria.
This is Asteria. I wanted to add something. And I totally support what was just said, especially in regards to the family. Yeah. I can speak to that myself. And I get it can be fucked up to just like ask for that additional service when you get that, right? And you don't have to, I don't want to be playing that game, right? Like, what is it like? Like, it can be really frustrating. Um, for example, I've applied to a lot of, DI work, and a lot of people are like, oh, you don't have enough, like, credit or like training and that experience. Like, you don't have enough experience. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Bitch, I do have like that experience. Like, I'm 32 years old. Like, I'm gonna have that experience and I've navigated the system. And anyone who's Black and BIPOC, like we already know. We are the expert. Like, we've already navigated the system. We already know what we need. Like, we definitely need more
hmm
qualified, like more quality. And like if
hmm
sometimes like a white person gets placed into something, like if it's from like a certain school, they're like, oh, I'm from this certain
Yep.
school. I have that piece of paper, like I'm white and I like have all this experience and like I work in community. Okay, I literally live in the experience. I'm an expert in that. And so part like if you are you really a part of our community? You say you support the trans community. Not really. Like, is your heart actually in it? Talk is cheap. I'm just letting you know, talk is cheap. It's 2024. This is time to be. It's not just like, going to Gallaudet University and just like different universities. And like they have issues internally with their staff, like especially with like equity. Like most of them are white. And they're like, oh, we care about diversity and inclusion, DEI work. Nuh-uh. If you actually did care about that, if you actually did care about that, and if you actually did, you would pull up, like you would work with certain organizations, you would really work with colleges or other people that really care about the DEI work, about diversity, about equity. Like, no more of this tokenization. Like, ugh.
Okay, our interpreters are catching up to make sure that all the hearing folks have full access to your message. Okay. Alex, would you like to add anything to that? Because I just want to name one thing before that comment. So what you described and what you experience is just, mm, I mean, it's a strong representation of white supremacy. It strongly reflects white supremacy. I'm just going to name it. We have to clearly name it here in this space. What you're talking about and folks having this type of experience, and specifically in working with someone with a lived experience. I have that experience, that primal experience. That's what I have. You bring that to the table. And still, they require that you may have some specific degree to get a certain um, amount of experience and all of that fitting into the job description. But all of that is a value of white supremacy culture. And really, it is deeply ingrained in fear and control. And that culture wants folks to be able to have access. It doesn't want to give people access to be able to thrive in their life. So you have that lived experience, not just a practical experience, but a lived experience. So I definitely agree with everything that you're saying. Yes, you are a rock star. You have the lived experience. You are skilled, talented, and qualified for that, most definitely.
And yeah, this is Asteria speaking. To add on to that, I know, just like really thinking about that on what you just said, I think, at least for me, I would just, to be honest, I would choose, the lived experience because, like, yes, like people navigate college and university and like that, they often bring that up, but it's really like, tough for me to just like really sit down and just like type it all out or pick it up because I don't have the energy to do that on my computer, like, to really talk about my 30 years of experience. Like my childhood, like I've already experienced racism, oppression, all those dynamics. I don't have time and energy to sit down and prove prove it out that I've experienced this. Like I just am the expert of my experience, especially with DI. It's like, bitch, I don't need to explain to you what I need to be doing. Like I'm done. I'm over it. Like my ability and the way I need to interact with people, especially people who are educated in the system, whatever, if they're hearing or if they're able-bodied, whatever it may be. The point of the matter is that like I just need to be able to get that information. I need them to be flexible. I need them to lead. I need to have a better quality of life, especially for trans people, in higher ed. And they need to be more flexible when it comes to like cultural competency and responsiveness, especially in higher ed, right? Especially with professors, teachers, whoever it may be, because some of them are really strict and rigid with their structure. Like they need to be flexible and they need to give room for students to, share their experiences. And hopefully we can also be reflected in the profession as well, like as professors and teachers. Like, because
Mhm.
sometimes people are like, oh, if you don't get it down on paper, then is it actually valid? Like, it's not enough for us to just like share what we have, right? And so whenever I'm interacting with people, especially in the trans community, for example, I don't know, if I'm interacting with community, especially with like the textbook, like a textbook, that's not the holy grail. Some people think textbooks are the holy grail, right? And they're like, oh, I read this textbook and I took this class, now I can interact with trans people. No, like oftentimes people forget that, it's the lived experience. And some people are like, oh, trans people are new. I've heard that a lot, and I'm getting really tired of hearing that. They're like, oh, trans people are new in society. Like, bitch, no, we've been here. we've been here for many years. We like I hate that comment. And if you really look at like indigenous cultures,
Mhm.
way back then, like we've been here.
Right,
Like,
right. Alex
come
is
on.
saying.
Like, white people, some people in community, which is unfortunate, they'll say like, oh, it's a white people thing. No, no, no. Like we've been doing it forever. So just wanted to get that off my chest.
Okay, and we gave a moment for the interpreters to catch up for full access. And so, really, what you're saying is really based on white supremacy culture. Those are characteristics of white supremacy culture, and also of white, and also the term it's not written in the book. It's not a standard. You just don't know about it. So, again, just the point that you made is very clear. Yes, Asteria?
Yeah. What I've been trying to do with interpreters in the education system is I love y'all. I love interpreters, but I want to be clear. When I've taken a lot of different workshops and seen people in different workshops, especially with white interpreters and how they work with other Black clients. And oh, there's only three that I can name off the top of my head who are Black interpreters, or three or four Black interpreters I can't really name off the top of my head right now, but I know them, and it's like that's all the people I know that are interpreters, and it's just like I know that there's more interpreters of color out there, but it's a lot of having to like, really reach out and just trying to figure out like it's just the fact, right? That there's not a lot of ASL interpreters of color. And so, especially with white interpreters, like they charge more too. And people just kind of like, they're like, we've been calling that out, that like that's racist. Like, and white interpreters have been asking for more money. Like, that's racist in comparison to your POC and indigenous black. Like, bitch, come on, like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm getting tired of interpreters of color not getting paid the same rate, whether deaf or hearing, whoever they are. And you can see just right from there, like, who's getting paid. Like, I'm getting tired. I forbid, like, working with a white interpreter, but sometimes I do I work with them and I do appreciate them, but the reality is there's way more white interpreters in comparison to Black Indigenous POC interpreters. But I'm not worried about, the BIPOC interpreters because I know they got it. I know that they're going to work it out and they're going to get their things and I'm going to work with them. But when I'm working with white interpreters, that's a different thing, all right? And, it depends on the context, right? Like, don't get me started with that. Like, it's a lot of time for me and energy to really code switch with a white interpreter, right? And to really like code switch myself in that environment in comparison to a BIPOC interpreter. But that's it. Just wanted to share that.
Making sure the interpreters are all caught up for full access to our hearing counterparts. All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your comment. Really do appreciate that. Ooh, I'm just taking a moment to really take it all in. Okay, other folks want to comment on the panel? Okay, this is Liam. So when I think about trans right, trans resistance, the movement, and something you mentioned comes up to me, like indigenous, thinking about that. This is not the first time indigenous folks have been here. This is not new. Folks have been here. And, it's just like
Right.
they've been, yes, they've been here. So with that, um, Black trans women, think about Black trans women. We as trans folks owe a huge thank you, hats off, kudos to the work of Black trans women like Marsha P.
Agreed.
Johnson and every other Black trans woman out there since the dawn of time, to this day, even those who haven't even been born yet. Really, I mean, it's the heart of the culture. It's the history, the movement work. It really is critical that we acknowledge Black trans women and their journeys in this journey. So thank you all so much for having the courage and the strength to live and walk in our authentic truth every day. Really, kudos to us.
Come on. Yeah.
Alex is saying, I 100% agree.
Yeah. So I would like to know if you all are comfortable sharing a little bit about some of your thoughts related to your healing tools. What are some of the healing tools that you all have in regards to some of the challenges and barriers that come up? And that will lead us into um, what are some of your healing experiences that you've had that perhaps been affirming or positive along your journey? So again, just related to the concept of healing. Yes, Alora.
Laura here. Well, once I left Gallaudet University, I moved to a transitional housing program. And that was really important to me because if I really look back through how I've navigated life with my family, friends, education system, just everything, there's been a lot of isolation, me against the world. And when I think about that, I think that connects to my inner self and my growth. And it was probably a good thing that I experienced that because it was a lesson for me. And sometimes I want to give up and I tell myself, I can't. And I take a look at the mirror and I see the facial features changing. I see my boobs growing. I see
Exactly.
sparkle in my eyes. And I look different and I can see it. It might be in movements and it might be temporary change and it might be something I like and don't like, but I'm getting there. I'm becoming who I am. I'm inspiring other people. I'm walking in my own beautiful shoes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I need to do that for myself.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Mm. Yes. Fucking yes. Mm.
This is Alex.
Alex.
I have seen you grow a lot, actually. You know that. I've seen you grow a lot. I've been watching you. I remember one of my earliest experiences with you, and um, I during that experience, um,
On behalf of Gallaudet, I just want to apologize for your experience.
and as a trans student, we should be able to support them on whatever needs they have, and not limit the students, and not be supporting that system. And it's not me, it's the system, and it's very frustrating. But either way, thank you for sharing your story. It's very powerful, and how you grow, you know, and how I can see how I've grown. And it's really great. It's a great part of your healing.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
You know that you have my support. Absolutely. Heart
Love
you too.
Hysteria.
Okay, waiting on the interpreter to catch up for full access to everyone. Okay, Asteria.
Hysteria signing. And I'm really, girl, I'm happy for you because I remember watching you when in, your beautiful self and, navigating all that. And here you are now. And, like your breasts were getting like more voluptuous and growing and like your skin is glowing. Girl, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. Like, period. I'm so excited. Um, but what I remember is like for healing tools, especially when I had my surgeries, my affirmative surgeries, right? During the recovery and healing process, oh, it was beautiful. I didn't know how to put on specifically like like a pad, right? I didn't know. I thought you had to stick the pad to yourself. No one had ever told me that you're supposed to put it on your underwear, right? You're supposed to wrap the pad into your underwear. So I was like, oh, okay. So after I got my surgery, I put the pad on me. And every time I did that, I was like, my friend was like, you do not put the sticky
Oh,
stuff on your skin. Fool, you're supposed to flip it and put it on the inside of your underwear. Hello. And I was like, and so I feel like, oh, obviously now I know. But I just thought that was that's a humorous example, right? Of just like sex education in schools. Like, because obviously, if you were born in the
Yes.
90s, you know how there was a lack of sex education and things were like segregated by sex or by whatever they determine sex to be, right? And so it's like I didn't learn how to put on a pad because I was not a part of that class. And so it's like, that got taken away from me, especially on top of that being deaf too, like that access, like that double barrier as deaf and trans, or whether you're a trans man or trans woman or non-binary, whatever you may be. Um, it'd be nice if we can all get that comprehensive education and to understand what's going on. And what I've been learning, I wish it'd be nice to do a crash course on all these things so I can know this, I can do that, I can know how to do this. I'm aware of that, right? But it's so fucking expensive to just like, you know,
You don't have to tell me.
it's so fucking expensive to just like pick up and learn new things and like take the classes and stuff. So it's like whatever it may be. But
Right?
whatever you like, go for it. However you identify, go for it. And some people may not like it, some people do like it, but it's a learning curve, right? You just have to navigate life. But that was just really touching, like a really touching memory I had, looking back was me sharing that example. But like when people are interacting with me, they're like, oh, like, are you good? Are you fine? So I just appreciated learning that stuff.
Beautiful.
And then one other thing too. Another thing that people don't know, and people are like, oh sure. Especially with trans women that get the surgery or not, with if you know, you know, but learn from my mistakes, right? So the sticky side on your undergarments, not on your skin, because that will cause whole nother issue. So, but that's just like a specific example. Yeah.
Um, this is Alex. You have to have a checklist of what you wish you knew beforehand.
That exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. You hit the nail on the head because, people are too scared to bring it up or talk about it, right? So don't assume that they know or don't know some people assume like, oh,
Right.
you're deaf and trans and you know A to Z. Sometimes I don't know. And people are sometimes too afraid to speak up. So maybe you can say a phrase that's like, oh, maybe you're not aware, but I just wanted to share this with you, just to help you transition. And you can be like, oh, sure, no, thank you. Just like bring it up because like the actuality is like people don't want to be seen as stupid or like feel negative, with like how you behave or act, right? But I don't, I'm trying not to care, right? Like, bitch, like I'm just trying to do me. Like I'm trying to, especially with the trans bills that are happening, like, bitch, like come on, that's so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like you
expensive.
want to play games with me? Like, come on now. Like, finish, back off. Like, I'm not trying to do this anymore. Like, trans people are just trying to get their money. We're trying to get our coin. I'm tired of these trans bills too, specifically. And because it really impacts us. Like, if you are black specifically and trans, like, ugh, and people are just gonna back, like, come on now. Like, there's a lot of situations where black trans women are really doing the work, and people are not paying attention to that. And people don't realize, and the one thing is that we're targeted, especially by cis people, especially by people who are not white, or maybe who are not black, who are cis. Like we're always being targeted from every angle. So I'm just trying to like leave us alone, either support us or leave us alone, right? But trans bills also impact trans people and cis people too. Like, it's not just that it's targeting us, but like the trickle effect affects other people as well. And I'm trying to really focus on myself and focus on other trans, deaf, black people. And bitch, I'm just trying to do me, okay? Move on if you're not here to support.
Bye.
Right. Waiting on interpreters to catch up for full access to our hearing counterparts. Do, 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 do. Interpreters catching up. All right. So, um, oh wait, does anyone else want to add to the comments about healing experiences that you had along your journey?
Oh, I forgot we were talking about healing experiences, Alex saying. I think from a healing standpoint, I touched on it a little bit of my thoughts. And I think I just need my own alone time and I need to relax and let go of everything that's happening out there. Sometimes you just have to back off. You just need to find a good friend. And other times you need to find a good friend that understands and that you could just talk with them, that could just sit with you and you guys could watch a movie together. It's little things like that that really help, to get away from it all for a minute and then to get back to it. I mean, I have to work in this system every day. So once in a while, I really have to say, fuck all of you. I need to go do my own thing and relax and chill and get back to it when I can.
This is Liam signing. For me, when I think about my healing journey, it's similar to yours, Alora, about falling in love with ourselves, as we transition. And because I have to let you know, it was fucking amazing. Okay. It's like,
That
I
exactly.
remember the day I looked in the mirror and I'm like, damn, I look fucking good.
Exactly. Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, there we
Like
go.
that vision I had of all those years, many, many years ago, and of the beard and everything, and I thought it would never happen in this lifetime. But the universe had other plans. Because look at me
True
now. Look at
biz,
this beard. Check it out. I mean, look at it. Look at this hair. Okay, anyway,
right?
but for
Look at
real,
my beard.
the point is that I feel so like that healing liberation. That it felt liberating. It was liberating, healing and liberating, and really being able to be my authentic self and what I had in mind all the time, I'm able to live that. So I now want to think more about the concept of liberation. What liberation means for you all and how that looks. What do you envision liberation to be for you? Liberation.
My screen was, this is the stereo speaking. My screen was like freezing, but I think what liberation looks like for me, stop bothering trans people, right? Stop bothering us. And going back to my comments with work, if I wanted to enter employment, I should be able to wear whatever the fuck I want. I want to be whatever the fuck I want, right? I don't want to be
Right.
policed on how I need to look like. Because, if I'm going in, I have to cover myself or like reveal things like, I'm just trying to walk in and just do whatever the fuck I want to do and just like be safe,
Exactly.
supported in that. And I want to look cute and I want to be able to decide what I want to do. And I'm not fucking with that type of person, and I'm not fucking with that type of people who want me to assimilate and just like look a certain way when I go to, hi, I'm here. This is how I look like. This is what, no, no, no. I want to be me and I want to be showing up in the way that I want to be and be authentic. And I just want to look cute. And like, I'm looking for financial stability, right? But I'm trying to also have access to, what does it mean to have stable employment? And if someone needs something, just like ask me. Or if someone wants to support me, ask me, right? Don't tell me what I need. Just ask me what I need. Because I'm trying to get to a place where I can support myself and be able to be a little bit more flexible, where then I can support people too. Because I've been being supported and I would like to get to a point where I can be supported people. And some people just keep preaching and preaching to me like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, for me, I don't want to wait for an organization or a company to hire me to go into work.
Oh,
I
she
think you're
My
froze.
freezing a
screen
little
is
bit. Your
frozen.
screen froze. Hold on just a moment. Let me wait for, yeah, okay.
But I'm just trying to be supported. Like I'm here, I want to be supportive.
Okay, your screen froze a little bit at the last part. The last part we saw was I'm not waiting for a company to offer me a position, and then it froze, and then we captured the last few words. Do you mind going back a little bit and restating your comment? Yeah, it was freezing a
Oh, I'm
bit.
freezing. I'm freezing up on y'all. Ooh,
Yes, can you see us now?
okay, I can see you.
Okay, well, do you mind repeating what you said, if you remember, if you recall, what you said when you said that I'm not waiting for people to hire me,
Oh,
and then it froze.
say that again.
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, I froze?
No,
Oh,
Asteria froze. You said, I'm not waiting for people to hire me. And then everything after that we didn't get.
This is Asteria speaking. Right, going back to what I was saying. Um, y'all are saying, like, I don't want to wait for a company or organization to hire me, right?
Yes.
Like, I want to focus on myself and sustain myself, right? Because, like, just like, I'm not trying to wait for nobody's approval, especially from someone that's like higher and looking down on me and being like, oh, this is your resume says this. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't have energy. Bye, right? So I'm just trying to be patient and just like find employment where I can just be myself and just like, move on and get on, right? We're in this society, in this system where like, oh, I have to wait for you to recognize my worth. My worth is intrinsically tied to what I can give to you. Like I have
And
worth. And
and this is
hey, I'm also still looking for a job too, by the way. But so I'm ready if anyone.
Okay,
I don't want
waiting
to
on the
wait for them
interpreters
to
to catch
hire
up.
me. Oh, I'm not waiting for people to hire me for DEI work. I'm looking for community work.
Do, 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 do. All right, Alex.
hope I don't lose my thought.
I feel you.
All right. Okay.
I had to make notes myself. Okay, I'm at the age where I'm just like, oh, I'll lose my train of thought. Anyway, go ahead, Alex.
I wanted to add to what Asteria said, and it's really how I got started in this field of work, how I gained the experience. I was hired as a professional because I had community work only. That was my experience. I was involved as a volunteer, and then I was had to have that experience to finally be able to get hired professionally. But it will work out. It will.
Yes, Laura.
So liberation. In terms of that for me, it looks like freedom. I don't know if it's true, but as a first Black deaf trans woman in burlesque, hello, yes, in
Ooh.
burlesque, I think I'm the first. And so, I did that because, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I felt ready. I'm like, girl, I'm ready to be a woman. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to come out and live my dreams because that is my freedom. And this is where I want to be. And so, once I got there, I mean, of course it was hard, but it is worth it. Period. It is worth it. All that pain, the harm. I mean, some days you want to give up, but it taught me a lesson. And that's how I got here. And I want to continue to share with the community that, here's my story. I lived it. This is my living experience. This is how I navigated it all. And I got to freedom. And I am free to be me.
Mm,
Thank you.
mm,
Exactly.
beautiful. Oh, that was fucking powerful. I mean, oh, beautiful. Oh, I feel that. Oh, yes, Alex.
And this is Alex. It's liberating to me to be able to break down all the barriers because of all the problems in the first place.
Yep,
Mm, mm.
exactly.
You
Mm.
said it.
Equity.
Ah, this is Liam. Yes, liberation is um the map was the opener to this conversation. And we want the whole thing to be blue, and that will show what liberation, that
And
freedom is for us. We don't want any red on that map
I
at
love
all.
that.
We want liberation across the country. Okay, so now I'm curious as we are approaching the end of our conversation and getting close to wrapping up. My next question for you all is about justice and healing. What does that mean to you? Mhm.
Whew.
Justice in healing or in health? What do you mean?
This is Liam signing. Just in general, whatever you like to share, how do you define this, however it applies to you, that concept of justice and healing?
Okay.
What does that look like for you?
Hmm.
This,
You can go.
this Asteria signing, I think what that looks like for me, justice looks like for me, is that it means I don't have to really be working and working hard and thinking hard to be able to afford to take care of myself, right?
You said
Without
it.
without being burnt out. Because that's one thing I've noticed, right? Because people, when people have options on like what they get to do and like pick, right? On like what they want to receive, like it's not about you, it's about me. Like it's about how what I want to improve on. Because I know what I need. I know what I need for my quality of life. I need to know what I need to be doing. I don't need to be told what to do. If I feel like this job is a match for me and I can handle it myself, like, I can analyze and like screen things for myself. Sometimes I need to filter
Hmm.
myself, right? I need to filter myself sometimes when, so be it, right? And some people will make that assumption when they're like, when I get housing, like things will be fixed. Because housing is now getting expensive. Like the rates are going way, like they're skyrocketing right now. Like
Yep.
it's exponential. But the amount of money that we're making nowadays is not matching up. So there's an inconsistency there. So justice for me looks like being able to work maybe a few different jobs. That way I can afford rent. That doesn't feel like justice to me, but I need to be able to work. Um, but to be able to be like working multiple jobs and be have enough to pay for my groceries, be enough to pay for housing, it's not like we're trying to be like in, back in the day, but where you could just be able to work one job and be able to get a house. But it's kind of nice to be able to just do that, right? So that's what justice feels like to me. So I'm gonna wrap that up.
Thank you for
True.
that, Laura.
Alora here.
Right, making sure that the interpreters are caught up for our hearing counterparts. Do, 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 do. Okay, go ahead.
Alora signing here. As Asteria pointed out already, I've also witnessed this myself in terms of justice. You have to have the opportunity to give me a voice, to listen to me, to let me share. Again, it's not about you. It's definitely about my well-being and my health and the opportunities that I can give myself, love, self-care. I can't give that to myself if other people, are taking that from me. And also
Right.
healthy relationships. It's important that you take care of yourself in order to have a good relationship. There's a lot out there. There's stress, and there's that impacts people's lives. And especially when we get older, I see adults now, they are stressed out, they are overwhelmed, and we have to remember to take care of ourselves. Self-care, mutual respect, boundaries, all of that is so important. And I think that everyone deserves to have a spotlight so they can share and they can have a voice at the table. You deserve it, and you need to know that.
Yes, beautiful,
Beautiful.
beautifully put. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, Alex.
Yeah. I'm thinking about justice and the perspective of from the perspective of working within the system. It's interesting because one thing that came to my mind was that yes, we are building good system supports in our policy with our students and our staff. We have all of this. Um, but the problem itself is the system, not the supports. So if people can't take accountability for their own actions, then we're going to continue having these problems, not just from the system, but they are definitely interrelated because it's not just based on the system, it's also the people running the system. I want to support all of these things, but I keep being told no because of the system that I'm working in. So really justice for me and equality would be accountability, accountability for self, accountability for working with people. Um, and listening to Asteria and Alora speak, I definitely think that we need to have people that are there to support them because they haven't had that so far. And the experiences that I have really helped me understand how to work within the system better. It's kind of a complicated, multi-layered problem, right? So justice for me as a society and for individual people, they need to take accountability of what they're doing when trying to provide for people. And I think they would be better off to take accountability. And we need to break free when building that accountability.
Right.
And with healing, we need to be free to heal, safe to heal. It has to all be interconnected.
Okay, now.
This is Asteria, but just waiting for the interpreter to catch up. I wanted to add something.
All right.
Asteria signing. One thing that I learned and I've discovered so far, and the kind of person that I believe in is that like self-worth is incredibly important, but also community, like being a steward of community, right? Like we have to like
Exactly.
really work for independence, right? Like we have like unity is also important, and it just really needs to be clear that like, we need to navigate that way, right? To be able to support one another. I just wanted to also say that like, at least for me, at least in my experience, just sharing from my experience, is that I have plenty of self-love, but we need more community care, right? Because the problem with this is that it can be a sticky concept or a different perspective, but, you know, within a white system, they don't consider community care, right? So my interpretation of community care looks like this, like there's self-care and then community care. Like this is justice. Like it's important to have accountability to yourself and the community to steward both of that, right? Like to be responsible and accountable to both, all the different experiences. And,
True.
just because I'm Black or like is one specific experience, right? But also being deaf and being trans, like that's also additional ones too. So I want people to work with what we have and who we are and be able to provide that to the community with support. You know, I can support the community better that way and support myself. Because at the end of the day, you have to be your own person, right? And you have to get your needs met. And some people are not going to match up. Like people have different needs. And we can't just, people each have their own experience, and some people can't completely disclose what they're going through. And so, sometimes I see people and they're not sharing experience or sharing their experience, they're sharing their experiences. I'm like, huh, how do we get in touch with people that, who are speaking their truth and who are vulnerable and sharing their truth, but also how do we support people that aren't doing that? Like, how do we get to that, right? How do we get people the resources? How do we get to people their support? Some people, are navigating with pain, especially through the system. And people are like, oh, you have to apply and like go here and like get this done. You're a Black, deaf, trans woman, perfect. Go over here and like apply here. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have to be doing that in the first place, but because the system is failing us, I have to be relegated to that. And I have to be able to go to certain places to get stuff. Like, is that safety? Is that justice? Like, as someone that is houseless, I need to be somewhere where I can be safe, where I can walk around and people know who I am. And if I'm looking for work, like sometimes
Right.
you have to, especially for employment, specifically an example I give, you have to put down your address. If I'm houseless, what address am I going to put down, especially for work, right? So it's a catch-22 situation, right? Because I have to come out at the self out as houseless in order to get a job, but then they can use that against me, even though they're technically not supposed to. But I'm trying to get a job, but I can't get a job because I have to put my address. But if I don't put down my address, like people forget that, right? They have to think about the little details, right? Little details do end up having huge ripple effects, right? Because, as someone who's houseless, who's trans, like, I have to be responsible. And, like, it's a problem, especially when the system is not responsive to me. Are those resources safe for me? Is it available for me to access? Is it a fit for me? Like, what is this? Like, what are you able to provide, especially with those resources? The system is not accommodating to me.
Liam, oh, I wish we could continue this conversation for hours and hours and hours. I love being in community with my people. Oh, I love this kind of space. But as we get close to the end, I want to pause for a moment and ask our audience if anyone has any questions or for our Q&A portion. I know we need to save more time for Q&A, my bad, but I do want to see if anyone has any comments or questions. Okay, I see Michael's comment in the chat. It says, we so can and need to continue this conversation. Let's do it again. Yes, consider yourselves recruited for another panel conversation. But anyway, audience members, any questions right now? And we can do one last question in closing then as we wrap up. So I'm kind of curious about this word. What's the word? What advice would you give other deaf trans folks that you would want them to be aware of? What would you like to share out to our audience members or trans folks? What would you like to share with our deaf trans folks in this moment? What piece of advice? Yes, Alora. Okay, this is Alora signing. All right. Don't give a fuck about what anyone has to say. And this is Liam. Yes, exactly. And this is Alora, and that's it.
Yes, exactly.
And this is Liam.
Support
I just
that.
want to recapture and restate what Alora said. Don't give a fuck what people have to say. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, agreed. Very good advice. Okay, next. Anyone else would like to share?
I'll
This
let
is
you.
Alex. Stay strong. Stay strong. We got to keep going with this fight, and you got to stay strong. Don't give up.
Okay,
This
Asteria.
is Asteria speaking. Laura, you're right. Life is tough. Believe me, I know it. But, we need to go to the spa. We need to treat ourselves. We need to get zhuzhed up. We need to get our bodies worked on. We need to go shopping. We need to be cute. We need to drink your tea, drink my tea. It's worth it because you're worth it, right? All of us are worth it. And, that's just who we are. And like, we've been navigating this for a while now. And the community has our back. Like, we can support each other. Like, you got me, bitch. Like, you can like depend on me anytime. But if anyone else wants to like contact me specifically, I wish you all the best. You're not alone. And if anything is trying to mess with y'all, please let me know because I'm gonna fuck them up for you.
The
So
Lord, yes.
let's
Hey,
go. Let's go.
Yep, we all
let's
will.
let's go. And this is Liam, and that is a fucking epic closing. I have nothing else to add. So thank you so much for everyone joining us today. You all have a nice day. Bye, folks. Oh, this is Laura.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.